Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Breaking news. We have Savannah Chase on the show, the first Marine Corps female infantry woman. Are they going to change it or what? Are they going to say
I think it's
infantry woman?
infantry marine.
Are they
I
going to say,
think
yeah, they're changing it to
but
Marine
infantryman works
now?
fine. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Well, first and foremost, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for
I
having
have a
me.
lot to unpack. Now, uh, do you believe that females should be in the infantry?
Yes.
Okay. So we had Miss Murphy on the show, and she did a phenomenal podcast with us, and she unpacked a lot of stuff. I want to start off with when did you join the Marine Corps?
In 2014. Yeah.
2014. What made you get in the Marine Corps? What made you decide to earn the title of United States Marines?
My twin brother. So
Okay.
he served in the infantry in the Marine Corps.
Hmm.
He enlisted about 9 months before me. While he was at boot camp, I was getting letters like, "Oh, I saw the girls training. Like, you could do this." So that kickstarted an idea. He came back on his boot leave, and the week he left, I went into the recruiting office.
Okay. Now, what was your initial MOS? Because I know you said
Mm.
that you had lat moved, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what were you doing before?
So I enlisted under logistics option and got ammo tech as my first MOS.
Okay. What was that experience like?
I mean, it was fine. It wasn't anything extraordinary. It was a great community. I think ammo company is great everywhere you go. My first duty station was Okinawa, Japan, and
Mhm.
they nicknamed Camp Schwab Man Camp. So there's like 5 females on that base, and it's just constant UDPs out of there. So the work tempo is pretty good, but it wasn't something I wanted to do or wanted to enlist in as.
So okay, so now you were ammo tech. You got that MOS, your job description,
Yeah.
qualification, and then did you ever get an opportunity to go on a deployment while you were in?
While I was usually when you're in Okinawa, you'll go as an attachment on the deployments. Okay, you'll go in as an attachment on deployments with the UDPs that are or the MUs that are already or Marine Expeditionary Units,
Uh-huh.
and UDP stands for Unit Deployment Program. You'll go as an attachment with that. So I went to Thailand and Camp Fuji
Uh-huh.
as an attachment in a supporting role as an ammo tech. Um, so that's not really deployment, but my deployment in the infantry was a unit deployment program where I went right back to Camp Schwab,
Okay.
um,
Now
but on the
what
other
is
side.
what do you believe the best boot camp is though? Because I know you experienced Paris Island. I mean,
Paris Island.
oh my God, man. What's so good about Paris Island? What's
I mean,
different?
it's where you're born as a Marine, you know. I don't know the history behind, I guess, Hollywood Marines, but
What is this Hollywood Marine thing, man? Y'all be
you
doing
could
all
tell
types
me
of
more.
crazy stuff
You could tell me more
out there.
about
They're like your left shoulder, your right, your left, your hood and hood. I know y'all do weird stuff out there.
it. We do, yeah. And we had the women over there, so.
So now, is there a specific drill instructor that you remember that when you were
I
down there?
remember all my drill instructors.
What
Yeah.
were their names?
I had Staff Sergeant Miller. I think she's a first sergeant now.
Uh-huh.
She's still in. I had Sergeant Nguyen. I think she's a gunny.
Hmm.
Um, she was the heavy, so she'd give me a tough time. I had Staff Sergeant Moreno. She left during our cycle,
Hmm.
and we picked up Sergeant Wolford. I think she promoted to Staff Sergeant, and I think she's out now.
Okay, so that was Bobby Boucher. That was a new drill instructor that didn't know how to.
No, she was not a new drill
She was
instructor.
mean.
She was yeah, she we had her at receiving.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I couldn't pee in the cup when I had her, so she recognized me. She recognized me when she picked up with us at the O course, and that was that was a fun start to her
So now
being
you remember all of your drill instructors. So obviously they were legendary on making an impact on
yeah.
you. So now you go through boot camp. Was there anything that happened within boot camp that was a challenge for you?
Honestly, no. I heard my brother's stories, so I anticipated that. And I will say that I think like the standards, obviously physical standards are a little different for men and women in the Marine Corps.
Hmm.
But like I was anticipating like a boot camp like his, and I'll say ours differed a bit. So I mean, I don't even remember your question.
That's how
But
it goes,
yeah,
man.
I know.
But
Yeah.
that's good though. So now you went through boot camp.
Mhm.
Did you have any challenges in boot
Oh,
camp? Something
yeah.
that was hard?
Really, no challenges. I grew up playing sports. I could do pull-ups before I went to boot camp. I think at the time I went to boot camp, I was doing 12. So,
Okay.
like, no problem there. And at the time that I was in boot camp, we weren't tested on pull-ups. We were tested on the flexed arm hang. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So now you got the flex arm hang, you flex it,
Mhm.
and then see they do weird stuff out there in
They
Paris
do.
Island. I don't know
Yeah.
what a heavy is. I mean, is
Yeah.
that weight or what out there in Paris Island? You know, we
It's
call
the
them
mean one.
experienced drill instructors, by the way. But now, so you graduated from boot camp, you
Mhm.
went to Camp Geiger, I
Yeah.
would suppose, for Marine Corps recruit, a Marine combat training.
No.
What's
So
it called
I
now?
went to Infantry Training Battalion straight from boot
ITB.
camp. Mhm.
Okay. All right. So what was that like?
So generally, if you're a pogue, you're going to go to Marine combat training. But because the Marine Corps was doing a study on women in combat roles, I volunteered to go to ITB. Um, and I was one of the last classes to go through for that study.
How many women did you experience when you were there at ITB?
We picked up with 24 and we graduated with 4.
It's a pretty big attrition
It
rate.
is.
Okay, so now in regard to that, so when you were in ITB,
Mhm.
okay, so uh, the female and male standards, are they different?
Yes, they are different.
Okay, how do you
Mhm.
feel about that though?
For a long time, I was like, they should, it's same mission, same fight, they should be the same standards. But I had the privilege of having, I guess you can call it a privilege, of having breakfast with General Neller when he was the commandant. And I brought that question up to him. Said, hey, sir, I feel like having the same standard will go a very long way um, with perception of female Marines amongst our male counterparts. And he said, well, in that case, you're going to have a bunch of female lance corporals running around because, yeah, men perform better physically. I don't want to say all men do because that's not the case at all. And some women are absolute studs and do a 300 male PFT.
Right,
Um, but for the most part, like that, for a while, it took a little bit for me to kind of process that. His statement where it wasn't a hit at female Marines, but there was like a validity and truth behind that statement.
right. So now, do you think, from your own perspective, do you think that the military is doing this for political reasons, or do you think that they are doing diversity and inclusion?
I think both. I think the way society is, I think there was no way that they weren't going to allow women into combat roles.
Okay. So now you check in to ITB.
Hmm.
Okay, what was the first thing that you experienced when you first got there?
I mean, it wasn't new to those instructors that there were women there. So like check in your pickle suit, like you're going in. I remember like bits and pieces I remember of this day, but you have all your bags, like you go
Hmm.
into a room, you check in, you like introduce yourself to the instructors and they're like, "Okay, you're going here, like so go there." And at the time they had I was in Alpha Company at ITB.
Hmm.
They had one the second floor I don't remember what side it was where the women stayed, and then the men were all on the other wing of the building on all 3 floors.
Now, okay, so now you are doing training. Was there a was the peanut gallery there? You know, a lot of people are watching you and observing your performance
Mhm.
versus, you know how it is
Yeah,
when the military introduces something
yeah.
and they're doing something new. Did you feel like you were in a fishbowl?
No, not at that time. I think it was like I really felt like everyone was pretty like I don't think accepting is the right word, but it didn't bother them so much because for like the males, that was their first time training with females,
Hmm.
but they also hadn't been in an environment that was so like damning towards female Marines.
Right.
So for the most part, I feel like everybody pretty much got along, and if there was someone who had a negative opinion on it, they just wouldn't talk to the females. So
Okay. Did you feel welcome when you first got there?
yeah. I think so. I don't remember not feeling welcome.
It's so fast, and
I
you
know.
got to move
I
so
know.
fast. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like you got tests, you got
Yeah.
land navigation, you
Yeah.
got shooting, and all types of
Hmm.
other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what was the first phase of that for you? What do you remember about that? Does something
Um,
stand out
the
about that?
first phase. I mean, you could tell which instructors didn't want the females there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So we had heard like when you first get to Camp Geiger, there's a holding platoon.
Yep.
So ITB picks up less than MCT.
Yep.
So I was in it's camp, or sorry, not Camp Lima, Lima platoon or Lima company. Um, it's Lima company for sure.
And then you kind
So
of
you go to Lima company and you hold there until the next class picks up. So um, waited there for about a week, I think. And there were, Lima was also like the medical drops. So there were also females with hip injuries, shoulder injuries from ITB. So it was like a little like, crap. Like, but it also wasn't like, like you're just waiting to pick up at that point. You're more excited to pick up. And then the first portion of ITB is the 0300 portion.
yep.
Yeah.
So now you're there. Okay. So this is what I've been hearing, from the feedback that we have in regard to the standards,
Hmm.
humping the packs,
Yeah.
carrying the ammunition
Yeah.
and doing those things. What was a fundamental difference that you saw when you were doing that training with males?
Personally, I didn't have really any issues hiking. I think the 20K at ITB sucks for everybody. It's supposed to suck. We had some really big guys up there, and they were hurting. But I think like because ITB at the time was so short, like you're doing a 10K, 15K, 20K all within like a couple weeks span.
Hmm.
So like everyone's got blisters, everyone's got like sore ankles, knees, hips, wherever. Um, so I don't want to say there wasn't a difference because some women that were, I think one of our smallest females in our class was like 90 pounds. So obviously she's going to struggle with
Right.
a pack with the same gear that she's in. And like a male that's what, 6'4" and 230 pounds, like he's not going to crumble under that weight. But for the most part, all the girls that were there were not weak women at all. So.
Right. And did they all pass?
No, we had a couple injuries during the 15K. One girl fell into a hole and like shattered her hip. And then we had like a heat case, and then one of my good friends, she broke the metatarsals in her feet. So that, like
From hiking?
injuries from hiking, yeah.
Shin splints. Typically, from that, for those of you who don't know, this type of training, you're going to get shin splints.
Yeah.
You're going to get, depending on when you go, you're going to have blisters on your
Yeah.
feet. You're going to have mental anguish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Psychological anguish to get
Mhm.
through that. And then and then on top of that, you still have to do course instruction that you have
Yeah.
to go through, right?
Yep.
So, so, so from your experience, the hikes was the hardest part.
Ah, I mean, I guess, and that wasn't really because they were like difficult, but they just like they were uncomfortable. They didn't feel good. So, I guess, yeah.
So a lot of the feedback that I've been getting in regard to the standards being separate from female to male is in a combat situation, the scenarios would happen to deal with personal hygiene.
Yeah.
Okay, did you feel did you feel any look, this is
I know,
I'm
I know.
keeping it
I just
real, right? We
yeah,
have to
yeah,
ask
you'll
these
get real. I
questions so
know.
you guys have it,
Yeah.
right? What do you feel like the personal the difference was in regard to that?
Personal hygiene, man, you're not gonna know if I'm bleeding. Like that always made me laugh because a lot of people are like, "Oh, girls get their periods." Like, yeah, no shit, we get our periods, but there's science like birth control that prevents women from getting their period for like years or months at a time. And we're grown women. Like we can handle our own shit like without the world knowing. Like,
And I'm glad that you said that because this is a touchy subject
yeah,
because all of the feedback guys like, come on, we have to be mature when we asking these questions, but we're gonna get the
yeah.
actual observation. Now, what would you say about being able to carry a injured service member off of the battlefield? What would you say to somebody saying that you can't physically do it?
One, I can do it. Two, it really depends on the size of the injured service member. I know plenty of dudes that would not be able to move. their partner.
Let's go, man.
So
Right? And then Marines work together, correct?
yeah, absolutely.
So now uh so we debunked the two scenarios. What else have you been seeing on social media or feedback in regard to you being a an infantry Marine?
I'm no stranger to like the internet trolls, and them mostly men with ego problems. Whether they served in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, yeah, I know like female Marine or WMs, women Marines, is like a foreign concept to them, because I don't know whatever issues they have, but definitely no stranger to those comments. I mean, when I checked into 1-8, someone found us at SIF getting our gear and was like, "Hey, I see the machine gunner, the rifleman, and the mortarman. Like they look like this, and they're at SIF right now. Like that's weird.
Yeah, that
Like
is weird.
fucking weirdo."
You haven't even checked in
I haven't
yet.
even checked in and someone's already sees us. So like at that point we were being paraded around. It was kind of a dog and pony show, and like I was very fortunate with my command to have the option to decline media coverage because they were showing up to our battalion, um, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys want to? We're not going to say no if you want to," but we were all like, "No, we would like to be away from the public eye." So
Why are they doing that anyway, man? Like, there's, I remember we had a famous person that came down to, when I was in at MCRD San
mhm,
Diego. I'm not gonna mention his name.
mhm.
He was a weak bitch, though. I'm just keeping it real with you. He was a weak ass person. You know who you are, okay? And he
No.
washed out of boot camp. But then, they're like, you know, hey, we got such and such coming, man. And it's like he's not getting any special treatment.
Yeah.
He's gonna get his ass on the quarter deck like
Yeah.
everybody else, and then we're gonna IT the shit out of him
Yeah.
like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I don't understand why it's just. I understand that there's a political push
Mhm.
for this, and I do believe that people should earn the title,
Yeah.
but if you can earn that title, then and the standards are different. And this was my argument, right? I said if females PFT CFT is
Mhm.
different, then why wouldn't I mean,
Yeah. So like the first PFT I did in the fleet, I once again had great like immediate leadership. I won't necessarily say that about some. But we were doing our PFT, and at the time it had just changed to females perfect score for pull-ups is 11.
right?
Um, I could do 11 easy, and I was like, "Oh, I just need to get 11." I said that to the guys and kind of laughed. And my squad leader at the time, he looks at me and goes, "No, you got 23." And I don't know if he meant it that way, but I was like, "Hell yeah, I got 23." I did 21.
That's
Um,
sweet.
so, and at that point, that was kind of my eye opener with like, yeah, I do have a different standard, but I'm always going to exceed it or try to exceed it. And granted, I didn't get that 23 pull-ups, but I got 21, and that was more than a lot of the guys in my company. So,
That's a fact, man. There's a lot of people who can't even do 5
yeah.
pull-ups. So now you graduate from SOI,
Mhm.
right? And then you go to the your unit, and then you get harassed at checking in,
Yeah. Well, the
right?
harassment started before that.
Okay,
So, it started, I would say, graduation day of ITB. I wouldn't necessarily call it harassment, but this was probably the biggest face of sexism that I had faced at that point in time.
can you give us some details
Yes, I
if you feel
can.
comfortable?
Absolutely. So, graduating ITB, they asked, "Hey, was anyone a guide at boot camp? Do you know how to use a guide-on?" And there were a couple of us that did. I was one of them, so I raised my hand. I do. And they're like, "Chase, okay, yeah, yeah, you can do it." So I was supposed to hold the guide-on at ITB graduation.
Right.
So for that week, we were practicing for graduation. And then the morning of, it was like 5 a.m. We were getting ready to go to the chow hall. A staff sergeant came up to me and said, "You're not fucking holding this." And I held on to it because I was like, he's joking. Like, what? And he said, "No, I'm serious. You're not fucking holding this." And he pulled it out of my hand, and he found another guy to take it, who had experience with a guide on. So I took his spot in formation, and he took mine. So
Just because they didn't want a female
he,
representing.
yeah. So I ran into this individual staff sergeant. He promoted to gunny a couple times in my career. He knows who he is. I'm not going to say his name. If he watches this, he watches. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But he later came up and he goes, I don't really have a problem with you holding it, but command does. The higher ups do. I said, I understand. Because I did understand. I was going to my MOS school after this, and all these guys were going checking into the units. So it did look better that a male was holding it.
Why?
You know, I I don't know
From
why it looked
look, we're
better.
gonna have to unpack this. Why does it look better for a male? Did you earn the title?
I did. I thought I did really well, and I think a lot of the guys would speak to that. Um, maybe some of them won't, but like that's just like the peanut gallery. Like who are they? Did they train with me? Um, they didn't, but it looked better from the units that these guys were going to perspective, because I know they have representatives that go to those graduations, and if there was a girl holding the guide on, why wasn't it one of the dudes? Did she outperform every one of you? And I didn't. I won't ever say that I did, because I had,
But that's not what they asked, though.
yeah,
And holding the
so
guide on, it doesn't mean that that's the best
yeah,
person in the,
yeah,
you
no,
know,
it
it
doesn't,
could be the
but
most improved. It could
yeah,
be the first. It
yeah,
could be anything,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Like, I still don't understand that. I'm having a hard time
Yeah,
grasping why that would be an issue with you holding
command, that was
a
my
guide.
explanation, was command had a problem with it. So whoever was in command at ITB, like, I guess I hurt some feelings. I'm sorry, So
How
whatever.
how did it make you feel?
That made me feel like shit. That was like the first. At that point, like there wasn't anything that could kind of put me down, because I was doing well. I was strong. And that was kind of like, damn, that sucks. And I had like we did a little like line into the chow hall, and my buddies were like, "You okay? You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. Whatever." But it did suck, and obviously I still remember it. So
Right. So now you're like feeling that they're going to question.
yeah,
You kind of have that feeling like, okay, now I know what I'm going into, right? Like there's a
yeah, yeah. I mean, like throughout that course, I had instructors telling me that I was worth a damn. Like a lot of the times, like once again, standards are not that hard to pass. Like you just don't give up during the hikes. Like a lot of the women failed the machine gun POI because apparently the 50 cal is harder to pull to the rear with the ammo in it, with live
right
rounds in it. And maybe in the beginning with the like the charging handle, you can feel a little bit of a
resistance
resistance, but
if you when you pull it back.
there's the down and back. Like once you feel that, like I didn't think it was any harder. We dropped 7 females on that range. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Now, do you think that there was a now when you drop those females on that
Mhm.
range, do you feel like in that position, in that space that they were looking to fail? Or do you believe, because I know there's
Yeah.
males that can't pull it back because
Yeah.
I was a drill instructor. So, and I was an instructor at all of this stuff. So I
Yeah.
see them shooting these weapons,
Yeah.
right? Do you
Yeah.
feel that there was a double standard, honestly?
I feel like I don't think they necessarily wanted them to fail, but they didn't care if the girls didn't
Watched
pass.
out.
Yeah, they didn't care. It only, like, at that time, that it was only an idea that women were going to go into the infantry, and these were the studies. And it was a volunteer based thing, so you didn't have, like, as long as you met certain standards at boot camp, which I think was 3 pull-ups I think that was minimum at the time. And I think
Right.
it's now 6. But as long as you could do 3 pull-ups, like, you could go to ITB. Is there any correlation into the infantry of doing 3 pull-ups? That's why I say the standards aren't hard. 3 pull-ups is not hard. Like, and it shouldn't be hard, if that's the profession that you've chosen. So
Right. So you said they dropped 7 females at the machine gun range, right?
the 50
A
cal,
50 cal range,
yeah.
that's right. So following that, like where did other ladies wash out at from that experience?
A lot of them would just drop by choice after weapons split, because they wouldn't have to go to MCT. They would get their certificate for MCT. So they'd be like, me, I don't want to do anymore. So I'm just going to dip out of here. So that's one way the study was flawed. And then some, like we had 2 girls just honestly up and quit during the 50 cal week because I think they were afraid to fail. And those 2 girls were both physically fit. Like I just gone through boot camp with both of them, and I to this day I don't know why they gave up, but um, they did, and that was their choice. But again, that gives a flawed to the study. Um, and at that time, like we had already had the 50 cals checked out of the armory, and we were not allowed to turn any in, so we had to carry the excess weight, because usually you'd have someone with the tripod and someone with the receiver and someone with the
Hmm.
barrels. We had this one kid carrying two barrels, a receiver, and a tripod. He was a big boy. Um, so it was just like at that point, I think that's where I was kind of like that was shitty of them. Like
Yeah.
now they're giving us all the weight. So I think like little bits of that, um, people see, like, oh, they dropped by choice, and it kind of gives us more weight. For like the females that were continuing to go, it doesn't shine a good light on us. And then for the dudes, they're like, they just quit, like
Right.
not a good look. So
What was y'all's ability to communicate during this training?
with the males or
Yes.
girls, I
Were you
mean,
able to communicate and know
yeah,
everything
we
with them?
obviously lived in different areas, but yeah, I mean, we would do weapons cleaning, dis and ass together, go to the field, like go to the range, go to chow, like all that stuff, and like at the I don't know what honestly what they call it anymore, but it was like weapons training battalion. That's where
Right.
we'd learn the weapons split stuff. Um, like we're all in class together all day, so
Now, from going through that situation, now you're checking in. Let's go. Let's circle back around to checking in, and you guys getting, hey, these are the ladies that are coming.
yeah.
Now, walk me through your check-in process and then getting into your first unit,
First, as ammo tech or as a machine gunner.
machine gunner.
So I had a no later than date of January 6th. So I showed up January 6th. Uh,
J6. What ironic
I
day,
know.
Trump. What up?
Oh my God. Yeah, the insurrection of 1/8 pretty much. Yeah, so showed up with the three other females.
Hmm.
Prior to this, I had met them. Um, when we submitted our lap moves, the commandant was like, "You guys have no experience, so I'm going to give you education." So he sent us to the advanced courses. As I was a lance corporal, the mortarman, she was a lance corporal, and then the rifleman was a corporal at the time. So no experience in the infantry. You're going to go to AMGC. You're going to go to advanced mortars. You're going to go to advanced rifleman course. So
What was that experience like?
oh my God. Terrifying at first. So they sent us to a 2-week kicker course with the combat instructors. So how it worked out was that we basically got 2 instructors per person. So we did like hiking, PTs. We did like a lot of 0300 knowledge, a lot of like weapons knowledge, if that was where we were at. Uh, just a bunch of stuff. We did some ranges. With those instructors, and that I mean I'm like it's fun, but that's where I met the two others, and like that's one difference I saw with Claudia's story, is that she didn't really have any female counterparts with her, and I did.
Right.
um and I think that sucked for her. I have had conversations with her about it, and she's like, I don't know if my story would have been different with or without him. So that's neither here nor there. But so we went to the advanced courses. I walk into the building, and two guys come in after me, and they see a gunny, and they go, "Hey, gunny, where's advanced machine gunners course?" And who is that gunny? The one that took the guide on from my hand.
Oh.
so, so he goes, follow her. She's going there too. So he remembered me. Um, so I get into there and I sit down at like there's 3 rows of tables, and it's all a couple lances, but mostly corporals in
Uh-huh.
the AMGC course. And they're all like looking at me and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm a machine gunner." They're like, "No, you're not." And I go, "Yes, I am." And they're like, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "I am." They're like, "What unit are you with?" Well, I'm with Ammo Company in Okinawa, Japan, but I have orders to 1/8 in January. So from there, they didn't seem to like dislike me or distance themselves at all. It was fine. Like I performed well during PT. I did well in all the courses, because the only thing that I could come with was memorization of doctrine, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Memorize,
Yeah.
yeah, doctrine. So I knew everything about each weapon system, even though I hadn't used them. And a lot of these guys hadn't even done a range card in forever. So when we got to the range card portion, I got to do the range card because
Right.
I knew what I was doing. And that's like no shame on them there. They just haven't done it in a while. Um, so that was fine. And so I was very fortunate to have a lot of great guys in that course. Um, I still keep in touch with a couple of them today. But the other two weren't so lucky. I know with mortars, FDC is a tough subject and it comes up pretty quick. And with a mortarman having literally no experience, like how do you expect him to pass AMC? Like
Right.
you shouldn't. So she dropped during that, and the rifleman, she made it to the last week and they dropped. I remember showing up to class that morning and she was leaving the building with her stuff. And my like stomach sunk. I was like, that
That
sucks.
feeling, yeah.
That sucks. And I felt real bad for her because I know it was not the easiest time. She didn't get along that well with the instructors, and I feel like they wanted her to fail. And I don't know if my instructors really um like wanted me to fail or not, but I don't think they did.
Right.
I I saw them a few other times in my career, and even one, he was a law enforcement officer in Arizona, and he's friends with one of my boot camp friends' dads, and was like, "Oh, Chase, like,
Yeah.
tell her I say hi." And I was like, "Oh, no way! Like, what a small world." So, yeah, I don't think they wanted me to fail. I think I put my money where my mouth is in my capacity to be a machine gunner in that course.
Now you go through all of the courses, you go through the advanced course, now you get to your unit.
Mhm.
So tell me what that was like when you checked in, or what type of experience did you have amongst the men?
Checked in on a Thursday, you're going to the field on Monday. Uh, let's go get your Sith. So we go, like, do the whole check-in process. I don't even think we did the check-in process. I don't know what signatures I got. I'm pretty sure someone went around and got them for me.
Yeah.
But they had put a female captain in 1-8. They put a female staff sergeant, a female adj, and a female intelligence marine in 1-8. So we would have little, I guess, outlets. Um, and then they put the rifleman in Charlie Company. She picked up sergeant on her first day.
Wow.
That was not a good look. She asked them not to promote her, and they said no. And of course, like, that pissed some people off.
Yeah, because now she's in a leadership position,
Yeah, with no experience.
with no experience.
Yeah, she didn't want to be. Um, she just wanted to, like, start at the bottom
Now,
and
can
work
you
her way up.
explain that to someone who doesn't understand? For those of you who don't know, like corporals and sergeants,
Yeah.
in the Marine Corps infantry is a little bit different than,
Uh-huh.
any other branch of service, because you're now in a leadership
Yeah.
position. Can you break that down for someone who doesn't understand a lance corporal checking in,
Yeah.
and now you're in a sergeant's position with no experience, and why that would be a challenge?
Yeah. I mean, your mindset changes when you reach those ranks. Or your role, your everything, your responsibilities change. Your role is now to train people to go to war. Whether you have, like, my seniors didn't have the experience of combat, but they're still expected to train their peers. So with her promoting to sergeant on her first day at 1-8, like, what could she give? Like, she's a great person. She's my friend to this day. But what experience and knowledge can she give to these guys? And especially with them already having a chip on their shoulder and, like, a already not wanting her there. So now they're pissed because she got promoted. So, yeah.
So now you check in,
Hmm.
and then you start to do your training and everything else.
Yeah.
What challenges did you face in the fleet?
Uh, the the people that didn't want me there. So before I checked, I later found this out on deployment. The company's plan was to break my hips through hiking. So they said, prepare to hike.
What?
Yeah, they wanted to injure me, I guess. And so it was really I don't know, their unknowns to me. Um, I can hike, I can PT well. So like, I can keep up.
Right.
So we hiked like once, and then I think they realized, okay. But what we also did at the end of that hike was ground fighting. I have no experience in ground fighting. Wish I did. Um, and we're doing squad versus squad ground fighting. And I look at two guys who are on the other squad, and I'm like, oh, they're machine gunners. They're not going to go after me. Naive. That was stupid. That was a very stupid thought. They go after me. My CO, who's a captain, had to pull them off me because I couldn't tap, tap, tap. I couldn't say tap, tap, tap. Nothing. So, yeah, it was just really people not wanting me there. That was the biggest struggle.
And you can kind of feel that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they like I think I said yes, staff sergeant too quietly to one dude's liking my first formation at 1-8, and like it was game over. There was really one individual in my platoon that just hated me. Um and I don't whatever, like he has his own opinion, that's fine. But like get to know me, dude. Like I thought I was, or I still think that I was pretty knowledgeable and pretty smart in my job. Um, I wasn't bad at PT, so like if you're supposed to go to war with me and someone's a weak link, make them strong. Like to
Right.
me, that's not a stupid thought process, but
Right.
apparently to them it was. But I don't think I wasn't weak. So he just didn't like me. He didn't want me there, and that's fine. Like I knew I was going to face a bunch of people that did not want me there because like I'm scrolling through all the articles that the Marine Corps Times is publishing about us going to 1-8, and I'm reading all the comments, and I'm using those as motivators because some 50-year-old dude in Alabama is calling me a walking combat mattress. Like, sweet. Like, I hope you don't have daughters. I hope you don't have a fucking wife.
Yeah.
So,
But then you know what though? That's when you come down there and you have to do that, it kind of like makes you feel isolated because
yeah,
not everybody has that capacity to
yeah,
take that energy and turn it into
yeah,
uh, you know, uh motivation.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
not inspiring.
No, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, definitely not inspiring to like see those things, but I used it as fuel for my fire. And like my peers were PFCs and privates,
Hmm.
and I was a lance corporal, and I promoted to corporal in March, so 2 months after I got there, and I went up to my CO. I did the board. I answered well enough. And I asked my captain, I said, hey, sir, like, don't promote me. Like, I'm not ready. Whether I was ready enough in my job, I just, I asked him not to do that because I knew it was going to piss people off for me to be a corporal. Um, and like, I'm not proud of that now because like I think everyone should be proud of their promotion.
Right.
But I had asked, and he said, he always treated me fairly. He said, Chase, I can't do that,
Right.
Um,
Can't not promote you.
yeah, so he told me that at the armory because I had pulled him aside at the armory and I was like, hey, like, please don't. It's gonna make my life harder. And he said, I can't do that. You're gonna get promoted. So I did. I honestly don't even remember who I had pin me. Like that's like how much I didn't want it, but I think it was probably my platoon sergeant and my section leader.
Hmm.
But I don't remember.
So now you're in there, you kind of know that they don't want you there.
Yeah.
They want to break your hips.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now they see that you can make it. Did anything change following that?
Yeah, I think the lower guys, like the boots, they took well to me. I got along great with them. They're all a group of great guys. Some of them had kids now. A lot of them got married. Like it's cool keeping up with them now, even though like we don't. I'm not like text them every day or anything, but through
Right.
social media, like you can see their life changes, and all of them seem like they're doing well in life. So that's cool to see. Um, and I'm happy that that was my group because if I was in a different company and a different group, I might not have had the same experience. So I can't speak badly on honestly any of them. It's just that one
Yeah,
individual. I won't even say anything bad about him because he had his opinion and that's fine. On his last day in the Marine Corps, I went up to him in the chow hall and wished him luck.
that's
I
cool.
was the bigger person, and he smiled and said thank you and left. I don't know what he's doing now. You know, he was into fighting, like UFC stuff. So I hoped that he would make it in that, just so I could see him get his ass beat on TV. And whether he was winning or not, I could still see someone punch him a couple times because I was never able to like, he would have kicked my ass. But you know, I felt like, you know what? I'm not holding any grudges with you. Like, so
Now you transitioned through your career.
mhm.
You got out as a sergeant or
I
corporal?
did, Sergeant.
Okay. So now you become corporal, sergeant, you're in a
Mm,
leadership position there.
mhm.
Were there any challenges within that scenario?
No, because I was a short timer at that time, so I was getting out. I got promoted at our second ITX, and at that time they just brought the short timers as like the road guard spots, you know. So the boots, or at the time they were like peers with me, they were now in their senior positions, and yeah, no challenges there. I think it was like the new guys at that time, like they would get scared of seeing me at the barracks. Like they wouldn't know what to say. They'd like call me ma'am. And I wasn't big on like, you're gonna call me sergeant. Like Chase is fine. Um, so a lot of them would be like, they like look down or like,
Right,
look past me, I'm like, whatever, man. Like that's fine. Like you don't have enough, like, I guess, pride in yourself to just say like good morning, like just a normal thing. I don't need a good morning, sergeant. Like I
right.
just, just, hey, how you doing? That's perfectly fine. But really actual challenges. One thing I haven't even mentioned is I mentioned like some similarities between my story and Claudia's story. I had a specific leader sexually harassing me my entire time. And I guess now I'm ready to talk about it. Didn't confide in any of my peers.
What was he doing?
Constantly messaging me on Facebook Messenger, constant. Like I remember my first field op to Bragg. It was a Sunday when we were bringing our gear out there, and I was wearing like a sweatshirt and leggings, like nothing unusual. And he's texting me like, "Oh, you can't wear leggings around me," like just weird, inappropriate shit. Um, Fucking gross. And
Now, was he a
he was my platoon sergeant. So, um,
so now he's in a leadership position,
yeah, and there's a few other characteristics about him that made him like he's high notoriety in the Marine Corps. And I'm going to leave some of this pretty vague. A lot of my guys will know who I'm talking about um, because he was our platoon sergeant.
right?
But I didn't disclose any of this to any of them because of what this individual had faced or lost in previous deployments. Um, he was obviously been in combat, very,
Right.
very obviously been in combat. Um, and if I had told anybody, like I already had people like not wanting me to be there. Like who are they going to believe?
So he was
Me
a
or him?
decorated, so he was a
Yes.
decorated service member,
Yes.
and I would assume that he was injured.
Yes.
Okay. So he was a Purple Heart recipient.
Correct. And it
Okay.
was also something I struggled with because um he had sacrificed, something to this to the nation. He had put in years of service, and who am I to like crumble under like years worth of inappropriate encounters with him? I felt very strange for like just I would dodge every interaction I could with him, especially through Messenger and whatever he was
So he
sending me.
basically would either text you or he
Yeah,
would.
yeah, and I
And then
would,
for those of you who don't know, like when you have a platoon sergeant, they have all of your contact
yeah,
information. They
yeah,
know where you live at and
yeah.
everything else.
So yeah, it was what I struggled with was like getting him in trouble for something, especially with him having served and sacrificed so much. But he later did things that put him in the brig, tried to appeal it, kept him in the brig. He got out, messaged me on his first day out, and I did not respond because whether he apologized before he went to the brig for being a bad platoon sergeant, and he wasn't a bad platoon sergeant in the platoon sergeant sense. Like he did a good job in that aspect, but the personal stuff, the outside stuff, that's where he fucking sucked. And he apologized for that, but then continued doing it for a whole nother year.
But a dirtbag's a dirtbag, man.
Exactly,
Regardless if
exactly.
you're
So
decorated or not. It's
yeah,
kind of like saying that, I'm a movie star, but
but
I'm driving drunk,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So that's for a really long time I struggled with that, and I was like, you know what? I'm just like I'm almost out. I'm not gonna say shit because like no one's going to believe me, but I know there were guys in my platoon that were aware of it because when we were in Korea, he came in drunk and sat at the edge of my cot, and the two guys to either side of me, again, they know who they are, sat closer to me. And my corpsman came up and let my platoon sergeant put makeup on him for like an hour because he wouldn't leave my cot. And I just sat there like in a ball, like just kind of like, leave me alone. And I never thanked my corpsman for this, and I don't know if this is what if that was his intent behind taking that. But he just sat there and let him do it. And I really, I'll probably reach out to him after this, say thank you, because it kept the attention off me, especially when the platoon's right, he was drunk. Like he could have done a lot worse.
And I'm
So
pretty sure that if you experienced that, there were other people
yeah,
that
yeah,
experienced that as
yeah.
well.
He would say things about the other two females to me and the captain, which he had a personal relationship with.
Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, it's all online, honestly. So, like,
He had a fraternization
yeah,
relationship with the captain that was
yeah,
in 1A.
who was supposed to protect us. So so this is where my
Oh,
dilemma
this
is.
is man.
I know. So I know. I feel
Oh,
like it's
man.
gossip, but it's not. It's online. It's in the court, the UCMJ. It's all on that. Um, but yeah, so she was put at 1A to fucking protect us. And there she is being a piece of shit. And I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she went to the brig, but like shame on her. Like,
Is that why he went to the brig? Or he went to the
yeah,
brig for something
there was a
else?
whole ring of staff sergeants doing weird things in the unit, like stealing things and selling them. And they all ended up going, I think they ratted on each other, and like some went to the brig, some didn't. But um, yeah, it was like a whole weird ring. So
Man, 1-8, man. What are y'all doing over there, man? Marines gone
I
wild?
think they're good now. I think
Yeah.
they've gotten much better.
Yeah.
So,
So shout out to them. Look, man, I'm just an interviewer, man. So now you're in a situation to where you're getting sexually
yeah,
harassed by inappropriate text
yeah,
messages, and he's your platoon sergeant.
yeah.
You're in that scenario. Now, what rank were you during that time?
I was a corporal in that rank.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a corporal, he's a sergeant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then now you know that the captain
Yeah.
is fraternizing with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
M.
He told me that actually. And now, meanwhile, I'm like, damn, if you're getting some from her, like, why are you being weird to me? Like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, and go with her. So like every time he'd say something weird to me, I'd be like, can I do swim qual? Like, can I go to this course? Like, can I start tuition assistance? Like
Right.
things to like divert from the topic. And it was like never ending like comments about my body and all that stuff. And the only time that it did cross into sexual assault was I got duct taped to a pole in Korea. And that was all good and fun, because like my peers were joining in on it and I was the smallest person at the time. But then he started like touching me like in a way that he shouldn't.
Inappropriately.
Yeah, and it made some guys uncomfortable. So they took me down, and that was just kind of like, well, that was fucking weird. And I'm like, yeah, that was.
So now, so when you're going through that,
Hmm.
you're expected to now you getting isolated.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So now you don't know whether you should, and you're young,
yeah.
right? So you don't know who. If you could go back in time
Hmm.
and you were put in a situation with him, on sitting on your cot
Yeah.
today, knowing what you know now,
Hmm.
what would you tell a young Marine female in the infantry? What advice would you give her?
Don't back down. Like what makes you feel uncomfortable, um, like and I would hope that they'd have someone that they could talk to, and tell, and whether that's their peers or someone higher, like there's reasons why you have training on restricted and unrestricted reports.
Right.
And I never did any of that, but karma got him in the long run. So like, thank you, karma. But my advice to women is like, don't let fear of isolation keep you from like protecting yourself or
Right.
preventing this happening to other women. you know, because a lot of the reason why I just let him like continually just be weird was because at least he wasn't doing it to, or which is the 41 and the 11. You know, at least he wasn't doing it to them. And we'd talk about it a lot, and they'd just be like, "Oh, he's disgusting." Like, um, and I'm thankful that I had them to talk to about it. But
And
it's like,
41 is the MOS guys.
yeah, Mortarman.
0341 and 0311.
11.
So for those of you who are in the Army and y'all listening to this,
Yeah.
okay, those are uh, um, infantry MOSs or job descriptions.
Yeah. So,
So, and I'm going to say this, guys, listen, if you're in situations like that, whether it be female or male, you have to say something and it needs to be documented in order for it to stop.
yeah.
Because if you don't say anything, your and you see something, the behavior will never stop, and then it might get worse.
Yeah.
Because typically, what will happen is it'll start getting worse and worse. And based off of what you were
Yeah.
explaining to me,
Yeah.
because of not reporting, it got worse.
Yeah. And I mean, he was a good platoon sergeant. He, like, any school that anyone in the platoon wanted to go to, like, they were able to go to, and everyone idolized him for his, you know, like, previous experience. And
What was it? Hand, arm, leg?
leg, yeah.
Okay,
Leg.
amputee of the leg.
Yeah.
ID.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and he always passed knowledge on to us. So I won't ever like take that away from him, is that he taught us well, and he was looking out, I think, for the best interests of the platoon and like their careers, but by no means was he a fucking good dude. Like,
Right.
yeah. So
So now you have gotten out of that scenario.
mhm.
What made you decide to get out of the Marine Corps versus continuing your career?
I hurt my back. I herniated a couple discs in my back, squatting, and just the process of getting like seen and help from medical. I'd never gone to medical before.
That make you feel like crap to go?
Yeah, it was shitty, man. And I was so close. I had some other plans and other goals that I wanted to do in the Marine Corps, and one of them was attend ANS for MARSOC, which I never obviously got to do. But at that time, like, um, you know, I think it just, I was kind of defeated at that point. You know, I think injury really sucks for anybody. In my, they have the, I don't even know what they're called, the doctors that are assigned to infantry units. Like,
Right.
we had two, we had a girl and we had a dude. The dude was an idiot, you know. He like was like, "You can do the CFT." And I'm like, "I have two herniated discs in my back. You want me to put 160 pounds on my back and run?" And I'd never struggled with a PFT or CFT before, so it's like, why can't you just carry it over from the year prior? You know,
Right.
I literally get out in like a month now too. So, yeah, it was just frustrations from that. And which honestly is weird is when I submitted the lat move, an extension was supposed to go in with that. But my career planner in Okinawa, I guess he never submitted that package because he went to career school. So my contract didn't change. I extended once to try to heal and go to at least try for ANS, which it didn't work out. My back didn't get better until like a year out of the military.
What year did you get out?
2019.
Okay, so you got out in 2019.
Mhm.
What do you have any residual effects of being in that scenario that you carry today?
Like physical or mental?
Both.
I had a severe distaste towards male authority for a little bit. You know, like,
I wonder why.
you, I know. I wonder why. Yeah, I mean, that was fine. My back hurt real bad for a little bit, and I still feel like mobility wise, there's some issues there. But like, no, I'd say I'm doing pretty good. So,
And what are you doing now for your career?
I was working in law enforcement, but now I'm just a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, all right.
Not
So
just, I am a stay-at-home
that's
mom.
right.
Yeah.
So how old are the babies?
She's 8 months. Yeah.
She's 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then now with your spouse serving also, and then you having a family,
hmm
what is the difference? Because now, I mean, you done all of the rigors of being a Marine
Yeah.
Corps infantry
Yeah.
person, and then now you're in the support
Yeah.
side, right?
Yeah.
What is the fundamental difference with having a military family, doing military
You
family?
see a different side of it. Like obviously you leave your family and they just kind of like wait for you to come home kind of deal when you're there, but now like I can kind of I'm the one waiting for him to come home and tap out and take the baby. You know, you take her. I don't say. No, yeah, it's just doing what I can to like to support him. So
Now, what's the fundamental difference between the Navy and the Marine Corps?
there's everything's different. I mean, I'm trying not to be rude, but
Keep it real, man.
Marine
Come
Corps,
on.
there's a reason why the Marine Corps has got a longer boot camp than Navy does. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming
Yeah.
on the show. It's been phenomenal.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
experience. And that, I encourage a lot of people to speak out about your experience, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
You say that if females can earn that position, then they
Yeah.
should be in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also the key takeaway is that if there's anything that you see that should be anything strange or weird going
Yeah.
on, tell your leadership. And if you're uncomfortable with telling the
Yeah.
leadership, report and document.
Or talk to the individual you see it happening to.
Wreck
Like,
it.
hey, are you good?
Yeah,
That's all
yeah.
you need to say. Hey, are you good? They'll say yes or no. But that little bit of like if I had one peer say that to me, hey, are you good? Like I probably still would have said nothing,
Right,
but just knowing that they had my back.
right.
So
And even if, and you know what, that "Hey, are you good?" made me uncomfortable
yeah,
because if a person is doing something, sometimes you should say,
yeah,
"Hey, are you good, dog, or
yeah.
what?" I mean, I'm trying to work and you are making me extremely uncomfortable.
Being
Like, come on, bro.
weird. Yeah. So
Right?
mhm.
So I appreciate you coming on the show and thank you. What's the best way to find you
Oh
on
God,
socials?
you can't.
Okay,
Don't
good.
say you can't find me.
Yeah, that's right, guys.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for tuning into the Sit Rep podcast. And if you know anyone who wants to come on the show and talk about their experience in the military, you can find me at TonyGlennII.com. And then also another thing, guys, we have a VA loan masterclasses coming up where we talk about investing in real estate. If you're a service member and you are looking to invest and get to where I am, okay, by utilizing your VA home loan benefits, we have a trademarked for those copycats that are out there, a VA loan masterclass that we do every single month here at 805 College Boulevard, Suite 103. And you can text us at 760-573-2731. Text WIN to 760-573-2731 to learn how to become a real estate investor. Thank you guys, and we're out. Semper Fi.